This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Heated confrontation. MP Chris D'Entremont alleges high-ranking Conservatives yelled at him after learning he was considering crossing the floor to the Liberals.
Help wanted. A Cape Breton family is fighting to get an extra teaching assistant for their child with diabetes.
And going dry. The historic drought is forcing some Nova Scotians on well water to dig deeper.
Rain tapering to showers as we roll through into Tuesday for Remembrance Day, but the wet weather lingering for Cape Breton. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. In an exclusive television interview with CBC News, Nova Scotia MP Chris D'Entremont detailed a confrontation with party leadership he says cemented his decision to leave the Conservative caucus.
But the Conservatives are disputing his account. The CBC's JP Tasker takes us through the allegations on both sides.
After a warm reception from his new party, Nova Scotia MP Chris D'Entremont is speaking out about how he says he was treated by senior Conservatives.
What sealed the deal is when I got yelled at.
In his first broadcast interview since crossing the floor to the Liberals, D'Entremont says Conservative MPs Chris Warkentin and Andrew Scheer barged into his office. His assistant almost knocked over. When they heard he was considering joining Mark Carney's government, he says they proceeded to yell at him.
And, tell me how much of a snake I really was and turning my back on my constituents and the people that voted for me.
D'Entremont says his discontent had been brewing for some time over Pierre Poilievre's leadership style, which he describes as very negative.
Quite honestly, a lot of times I felt it was a part of a frat house rather than a serious political party. It wasn't about keeping government to account. It wasn't about trying to do the best for your constituents. It was about tearing down.
Poilievre's office is hitting back, alleging D'Entremont left the party because he didn't get a deputy speaker position. In a statement to CBC News, they called D'Entremont a liar, who is now spinning more lies after crossing the floor. He will fit in perfectly in the Liberal caucus. Hours later, the party sent out a detailed blow-by-blow of Scheer and Warkentin's version of events, disputing D'Entremont's description of the meeting, saying they entered the office calmly and spoke in a measured voice.
Mr. Carney was going to be the tight-fisted banker.
Poilievre hasn't spoken publicly about D'Entremont's departure or the abrupt resignation 2 days later of another Conservative MP, Matt Genereux, focusing instead on Carney's budget.
I feel sorry that we're in this situation, but I also think, we're only hearing part of the story from Chris.
Adam Chambers wasn't part of the alleged D'Entremont confrontation, but says these are tense times.
In the heat of a moment, you can understand how tensions would be very high when the government is on the precipice of getting a majority.
It's like high school. We see these guys showing up at his office. Like, come on.
This longtime political watcher says the Conservatives are in crisis and Poilievre's leadership is under threat.
No one should be intimidated. And so I think if that's the way that the Conservative Party handles things, no wonder people are crossing the floor.
Yeah, D'Entremont says he isn't the only one feeling disaffected with Poilievre and his team. He says 3 or 4 more Conservatives were considering a switch to the Liberals. That would give the Prime Minister the seats he needs to form a majority government. The Liberals aren't saying much publicly, but sources say more defections are possible.
That was the CBC's JP Tasker in Ottawa.
The Nova Scotia government has issued a hiring directive that says only 1 of every 2 full-time equivalent vacancies can be filled. When one job is filled, a second vacancy must be removed from the budget of a government department or an entity. Finance Minister John Lohr says the move is in direct response to the provincial deficit, which is forecast to be $1.2 billion.
We're keeping a close eye on our fiscal position. That's a reality. And we want to do this with creative solutions, not with mass layoffs or job cuts. And we want to be targeted and strategic. This is a way for us to do that.
The new directive does not apply to frontline jobs that interact with the public, such as teachers, healthcare workers, correctional officers, and social workers. The president of the NSGEU says they have questions about what positions qualify as frontline workers. Sandra Mullen says some of the vacancies that could be eliminated are for jobs that could support frontline workers.
Mike Smith, who plays Bubbles from the iconic Nova Scotia-based show Trailer Park Boys, has been charged with sexual assault. According to court documents, the incident is alleged to have happened in Dartmouth in December of 2017. Charges were laid last month, and the Crown has been granted a publication ban on any information that could identify the alleged victim. Smith was arraigned today. His lawyer appeared on his behalf. Prosecutor Nicole Ford says Smith will not be given any special treatment despite his fame.
We at the PPS take every file very seriously. We evaluate every file the same way for each individual person, and we maintain our integrity of the investigation separate, and we do not provide any type of special treatment to anyone based on their public profile.
This is an allegation at this point. It hasn't been proven. It'll be tried in the court. It won't be tried in the media. And in the meantime, we ask that the privacy of everyone involved be respected.
The case will return to court in December. According to a statement from the Trailer Park Boys, Inc., Smith has, quote, stepped away from his role as managing director of the company.
Yeah.
A man has been charged after barricading himself inside a Waverley home while armed last month. RCMP responded to a report of a barricaded person along with a weapon, inside a residence on Waverley Road on October the 27th. The incident prompted an emergency alert. The 35-year-old man from Myers Point, who did not reside at the residence, was eventually arrested. He is facing a charge of unauthorized possession of a firearm. He will appear in court at a later date.
A Cape Breton family is fighting to get an extra teacher's assistant for their child who is suffering from a severe form of diabetes. They say the TA is needed to monitor the child's blood sugar levels. So far, the school has refused. To ensure his safety, the family has now taken the child out of school. Anna Rack reports.
This is Reese Fewer. He's 5 years old and a student at Brador Elementary School. He also has asymptomatic type 1 diabetes.
What is it?
For over a month, he has not been in class. His grandmother says there are currently 4 full-time and soon to be 2 more part-time students in his class that require a teacher's assistant. That's only 1 TA for all 6 kids. For his family, not having someone actively monitor his blood sugar levels is problematic.
I just feel like I'm not being watched enough.
Reese would love to go back to school and be with his friends, but Reese is very, very scared. He basically tells us he can't go back until they get another TA to make him safe.
Reese's condition means that his body cannot produce the proper amount of insulin. A device on his arm monitors his blood sugar levels, which sends alerts to his phone when his levels are too low or too high. Diabetes Canada says Nova Scotia is the gold standard for mandated standards of care in the classroom. But cases like Reese's are still ongoing.
If diabetes is not managed well when people are young and they learn how to manage their diabetes well, that leads to all of your long-term impacts of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, amputations, and we never want that for any kid who, again, with a bit of support, can be safe and well at school and able to learn and play.
Foster says the principal of the school refused to assign a second TA to his class, and there's been instances in which his phone has been turned off or silenced. The school board refused an interview with CBC, but in a written statement said the administration is working to come to a resolution.
There's been several mistakes made in relation to his type 1 diabetes, and we can't have that. We need Reese to come home at the end of the day to us. We love Reese so much, and we cannot stand back and let this happen to our grandson.
With all his time at home, Reese's family has been homeschooling him, while hoping to bring him back to school when they feel it's safe. Anna Rack, CBC News, Millville.
And on a rainy night, let's bring in Ryan Snoddon now.
Yeah, a bit of a super soaker.
Yeah, absolutely. The eastern shore into the Halifax area really coming down at times this afternoon into this evening. Earlier in the day, the south shore into the mix, and that rainfall warning is still in effect along the Atlantic coastline and into Cape Breton, where there's a laced wet wind warning as well. Rainfall totals, this is additional totals, including Monday evening and into the overnight and throughout the day on Tuesday and Tuesday night. And you can see Cape Breton and that Eastern Shore region. That's where we have our best chance of getting into the 50 to 75, even 80 millimeter range here. Additional totals in the 20 to 30, 40 millimeter range for the Halifax metro area, including that shot that came through around the 5 to 6 p.m. time frame. And you can see that, yeah, we've got more rounds of rain overnight, but generally, the further east you are, the better chance you'll have. Now, by 6 a.m., very mild to start the day. And then what we're going to be seeing is, yeah, that chance for showers still lingering for Cape Breton, but pretty quiet at 11 a.m. on Tuesday morning, which is good news. Chance for some sunny breaks in the west. Isolated chance for showers for the eastern mainland of Nova Scotia. And again, the best chance for some wet weather and pack your umbrellas is if you're heading to Cape Breton. Tom and Amy will break down that full 7-day forecast, including the chance for flurries coming up.
Okay. Looking forward to it. Okay, thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Well, despite the rain, a growing number of Nova Scotians who rely on well water are in a state of constant worry. Months of relentless drought are leaving wells bone dry, and as Selena Alder shows us, it's forcing families to dig deeper into the ground and their bank accounts.
Garnet Hill has been without running water at his home in Nova Scotia for months. He's finally decided enough is enough.
This year, the well was extremely low. We've got about a foot of water in our well, and I can't go through another summer.
This past summer was one of the driest on record for parts of Atlantic Canada. Some regions even experienced extreme drought. The retiree from St. Margaret's Bay, just outside of Halifax, is spending over $20,000 to have a new well drilled. And he's not the only one making the costly investment to secure a steady water supply.
Been very busy. I'd say probably double to almost triple the workload compared to years prior.
Arthur Jefferson owns a well drilling company. He says they get up to 30 calls per day from desperate homeowners who found themselves without water. This agriculture expert says the situation is rare, with drought conditions still gripping parts of every province and territory.
We typically don't see drought conditions on a national scale very often. We are very used to seeing extreme drought conditions in one region or the other.
In parts of rural Ottawa, low water advisories have been in place since September. This resident, who lives just 30 minutes west of Ottawa, has been relying on water deliveries and filling up jugs at a local arena.
The situation is getting dangerous. We're heading into the winter months and people are rationing water, which is incredibly unsafe.
Back in Nova Scotia, Jefferson is drilling as much as possible, trying to ensure people get access to water before the winter hits. For Hill, his new well is a glimmer of hope amid what's been a stressful and dry several months. Selena Alders, CBC News, St. Margaret's Bay.
The World Health Organization says Canada has lost its measles elimination status. That's after nearly 3 decades.
Having Canada lose our measles elimination status is a wake-up call. I mean, we need to do better.
An outbreak began in a number of provinces over a year ago. Health authorities say the outbreak has subsided, but the virus shows no signs of being stamped out. They say based on records, 1 million people are not immune to measles in Alberta alone. And Mennonite communities in southwestern Ontario have been hit hard. Last month, Nova Scotia Public Health declared that a measles outbreak in the northern zone that ended up affecting 61 people was over.
A Canadian Oscar-nominated production designer who lives in Cape Breton found an inspiration at home for her latest project.
Victor Frankenstein.
Tamara Deverell helped director Guillermo del Toro bring to life his adaptation of the iconic sci-fi story Frankenstein. It marks the 5th time Deverell has worked with Del Toro, including 2021's Nightmare Alley, which earned her an Academy Award nomination.
Deverell and her husband moved to Cape Breton recently, and she says it could have been a perfect fit for Frankenstein.
I went to Louisbourg, the Fortress of Louisbourg, to look at it, both for research, which was great for like the mill house and the period buildings and methods and furniture. But we went there in February when it was closed. We had a couple of people show us around through like locations, Nova Scotia. And I really wanted to shoot there. It was fantastic. Like still in my head to, one day I'd love to make a movie there.
Del Toro's Frankenstein was released on Netflix on Friday. There's a look at the Blue Nose Wharf in Lunenburg. We're back after this.
This weather update is brought to you in part by Atlantic Lottery's iGames. Play hundreds of games on the Atlantic Lottery app or at alc.ca.
Well, it is looking like November out there, certainly feeling like it, and yeah, lots of rain coming too.
Damp, and then you said maybe some flurries.
Yeah. Thought that might tease a few people to stick around. Yeah, we are looking at a few flurries into the mix Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, primarily for north and western parts of the province. So we'll dive into that first. First and foremost is indeed the rainfall warning, which is in effect along the Atlantic coastline. Here, totals will near 50 millimeters, but for Cape Breton, Guysborough County totals likely going to be closer to 75 to 80 millimeters locally. Especially through Richmond and into also Victoria County possible. The lace wet wind warning is in effect. It's been ramping up there over the last couple of hours and will continue to really gust there tonight. Already gusting to 90 at last check at Grand Etang, and could see some gusts certainly there pushing 120 over the next couple of hours into the early overnight as those southeast winds, that was sustained winds. There we go. Now we're talking about the gusts at last check. As of 6 p.m., you can see 117. So that's pretty much where we were thinking here in terms of those strongest gusts. And we'll be watching that over the last next couple of hours, You can see the winds still southeasterly here, but we will see a shift to southwest winds as that front comes through overnight and into tomorrow morning, and that will usher in the cooler air. Despite it being a southwest wind, it will be cold air wrapping into this system. No temperatures still hanging on to 6 to 8 degrees across Cape Breton. We're into the teens here across the rest of the mainland. And yes, into this warm sector with that rain that has been coming down in sheets at times, and it is really coming down right now across Cape Breton and eastern parts of the mainland. There's the cold air wrapping its way back through. Snow, significant snow, the earliest in a few decades for Toronto. And southern Ontario getting blasted with a little bit of early winter. Here's our rainfall outlook one more time in case you missed it. These are totals from early evening right through till Wednesday morning. And you can see that things are really going to continue to come down here across eastern parts of the mainland. Our best shot of getting additional totals near 50 millimeters, 10 to 20 additional still to go for the South Shore region. We are looking at temperatures really variable on Tuesday. So I'm only showing you this for a moment because it's only going to capture a moment in time because this is what we really need to look at is the timeline. So we're into the warm sector tonight. Temperatures rising in through Cape Breton. There's 6 a.m. Most of that wet weather should have pushed east or should be just off to the south for Tuesday morning in Cape Breton. Note that we are looking at that sunbreak potential here for western areas of the mainland through that early to late, even late morning for the Tri-County area. Halifax into central areas looks quiet at 11 a.m. Very isolated chance for a shower. The eastern shore, Antigonish, better chance for at least getting into one of these showers. Cape Breton is the best chance. And unfortunately, check, of course, the radar before you're heading out the door. Looks like an umbrella or rain jacket. Good ideas. We will get into some of these steadier bands of rain into the afternoon again, as things are going to be pretty damp. Note that that dry punch working its way into central areas as well, only for a time though. So by mid to late afternoon, we get another round of this wet weather coming in, and that is really going to be the story for the drive home tomorrow into tomorrow evening. More showers and bands of rain. Now, Tuesday evening into the early overnight, temperatures really starting to drop here, and we are looking at, low single digits by 11 o'clock Tuesday evening, and this is where we're looking at that potential for some flurries. And yes, some streamers, some squalls firing up in these westerly winds, and that is what could bring us a little bit of blanket of some white by the time we get to Wednesday morning, particularly for western areas. And then Wednesday, you can see a chance for showers creeping back in. Yes, lots going on here over the next couple of days. And look how much cooler Wednesday is. 4 to 7 degrees. Westerly winds will be brisk. And that's on the leading edge of this system, which for the most part looks set to shoot to our south. It hits Newfoundland and we get into those wraparound northeasterly winds, which will be pretty chilly on Thursday. Chance for a flurry intermixed with that cold air mass on Thursday night into early Friday. And another chance for some flurries into the Sunday time period. So November coming in with a bang here.
There's a lot going on. Okay, right. Thanks very much, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Well, a Cumberland County veteran is sharing his passion for local history.
Yes, using military records, the students learn about a Pugwash area principal who served in the Second World War. The CBC's Luke Ettinger stopped by for the lesson.
These Pugwash District High School students are receiving a lesson about a one-time principal who served in World War II. Charles Curtis McCann was a flying officer born in Wallace. He was a school principal in Pugwash for 7 years before volunteering to fight overseas.
The officer noted that he joined out of a sense of obligation. My guess is that even though he was well established in his career here as a principal, and that he was older than the average recruit, he felt that he should be serving as well, and so in that way he was unique.
Small is a retired teacher, local historian, and served with the armed forces during his summer breaks. He returned to the classroom to share McCann's military records with grades 7 and 8 classes, giving them a lesson on using primary sources.
It might be difficult to access, it might not be very clear, but once you find the information that you're looking for, it can be very useful. And the emphasis that I tell them, which is quite true, is nobody has seen this information for since he passed over 80 years ago.
Do you want me to just read it off? Is it right? Yeah, I just need to finish spelling scholastic.
The students scoured for information in letters of recommendation and Air Force assessments.
It feels different, like learning from the actual physical primary documents, because online I was just scrolling through it, and I've been on my computer like so much that it's just kind of normal to scroll through it, but to actually get to like hold the real documents and like flip through them and look at them was definitely a lot more different and more real than just looking through it on a computer.
I think it's super cool because I have family who was in this war, and well, most of them are dead now, but it helps me to understand more what they went through and what others went through around them.
McCann's service ended with his death in December 1943, but that's not where his story ends for Small.
Every soldier, every sailor, every airman who joined had a life, had friends, had family. And I would also like to find out more. That's why I'd like to find the relatives of Charles Curtis McCann. Like, what impact did his passing have on his relatives here?
For these students, McCann's education career before service is something they can relate to. Something Small hopes underlines why it is important to remember. Luke Ettinger, CBC News, Pugwash.
Coming up, a political scientist weighs in on Chris D'Entremond's departure from the Conservative caucus and the fallout. Nova Scotia MP Chris D'Entremont says when Conservative members barged into his office yelling, well, that sealed the deal on his choice to cross the floor of the House of Commons to join the Liberals this past week. It has been a dramatic last few days in Canadian politics, and watching it all is political scientist Laurie Turnbull, who joins us now. Ms. Turnbull, when you heard Chris D'Entremont's version of the events that we just described there, what went through your mind?
I mean, a few things that, like, these things shouldn't happen. The idea of people showing up at your office, calling you names, the door swings open and there's this intimidating presence. That's not okay at all. This is a democracy. And actually, if a person decides they want to switch parties, they can do that, even if it makes people upset. And I completely understand the emotion on the Conservative side with respect to feeling like they are being betrayed by somebody who was their MP and part of the team. And I get it. But this is politics, and this is professional, actually. And people can decide they want to sit on the other side of the House, and there's no need for people to be in this kind of intimidating space about it. But I also think more broadly, this is probably a party in panic, because this is not the way you behave if you've got things kind of in hand. I think we can see probably a lot of emotion, and it's not an excuse at all. This is not, if this is what happened, that's not a way to behave. But I think that we can see a party that's really struggling to get a narrative in place here, right? Like the budget was supposed to be the big focal point. It was supposed to be a week of the opposition parties railing on the government for whatever they think is missing from the budget. And instead, the whole week ended up being about the Conservatives.
Yeah, and so how damaging do you think this story is for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party?
I think that the story actually really started back a few weeks ago when Pierre Poilievre made those comments on that podcast with respect to calling the leadership of the RCMP despicable, suggesting that they had political reasons for wanting to, kind of cover up for Justin Trudeau, who, according to Mr. Poilievre, should have gone to jail over the Aga Khan trip. I mean, I think that sort of thing really put pressure on some caucus members to decide whether they're going to stick it out with Mr. Poilievre or not. I mean, Mr. D'Entremont won his riding by 533 votes, which is not a lot at all. And I think he was probably really thinking about the possibility of not being reelected and looking at the role that he may feel that Pierre Poilievre played in that. And so, and not even just the kind of straight electoral math, but also Mr. D'Entremont self-identifies as a red Tory. Does he feel comfortable in the party? Does he feel comfortable with Pierre Poilievre's leadership? I think not. The fact that Mark Carney, the Prime Minister and also the Liberal leader, really kind of leans to the center when it comes to his politics. He's I think if the world were different and there was a progressive Conservative Party, Mark Carney would probably be in it, and so would Chris D'Entremont, is my guess. And so I think he can see some values alignment with joining the Liberal Party at this point. But for the Conservatives, for Pierre Poilievre, I think this means that they are going to have a hard time convincing people that they can keep moderates in the party. It's starting to look like even more like a party of the right, which makes it more difficult for them to form a government.
Well, yeah, and you're seeing the Edmonton Riverbend MP, Matt Genereux, who resigning from the CPC and politics after it was reported that he met with Carney. I mean, will these stories embolden some in the party to take a stand or perhaps hasten other departures?
Potentially. There have been, like, word on the street in Ottawa is there have been conversations with other Conservative MPs who, are entertaining the possibility of crossing the floor or were entertaining that possibility. I suspect that now that there has been so much attention paid to Mr. D'Entremont, to Mr. Genereux, that kind of puts any further action in a new light. Any other MP who's thinking about crossing the floor from the Conservatives to somewhere else, even just to sit as an independent, will know that they are contributing to potentially Pierre Poilievre's political downfall and making it very, very difficult for him. There's also a lot of there have been reports that both Mr. D'Entremont and Mr. Genereux were the target of pretty extreme pressure measures on the part of the Conservatives when word got out that they were thinking about crossing the floor. And so might some other, this might be the type of thing that actually invigorates people in the Conservative Party to cross the floor, because they might look around and think the leadership, the leader's office, people who work on behalf of the leader are taking out Oppo research on us, on their own caucus members. They may not be interested in sitting around for that. But on the other side, there might be people who feel quite intimidated and think, I don't want to live what Mr. Genroux has lived, so I don't want to go down that path. So it could cut both ways.
We have 30 seconds left here. How does this play in d'Entremont's riding, do you think?
It'll be up to Mr. d'Entremont to explain it to his constituents. I think there was a real split in his riding the last election. That 533 votes is not a big margin. The Liberals are just about as strong as the Conservatives. And so I think this might have been quite a smart strategic play for Mr. d'Entremont, everything else aside.
All right, Laurie Turnbull, we will leave it there. Thanks for your thoughts on this.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, Prime Minister Mark Carney is in Fredericton to highlight the government's new Buy Canadian policy.
And reaching a deal, the United States Senate takes the first step toward ending the government shutdown. Welcome back. Prime Minister Mark Carney is out selling his Buy Canadian policy. It's meant to ensure federal dollars are spent on domestic materials and services.
It's a move to make the economy more independent, but as the CBC's Olivia Stefanovich reports, it could also come with a cost.
With the trade war dragging on, the Prime Minister is making his next move.
Now, we're going to build. But it's not just about what we build, it's also how we build.
Launching a new form of protectionism.
We will build Canadian by becoming our own best customer.
It's called the Buy Canadian policy, mandating all federal agencies and crown corporations to select Canadian suppliers by default.
It's not going to resolve the crisis that we're in, but it sure is going to be helpful.
The steel industry is applauding the move after being hit with 50% tariffs from the White House.
It's a devastating situation, so this, along with other things, really helps to stabilize the industry, and that's what we're all working towards.
But industries are also looking for provinces and territories to match the policy.
We do welcome a focus on building and buying more goods right here from Canada.
Under the directive, when domestic suppliers are not available, purchases will still need some Canadian content or be sourced from trusted partners if they get ministerial approval.
Every time you add a policy on a current or future project, that would kind of put a hurdle in the normal process.
Ottawa is setting aside $200 million from the federal budget for the policy. The construction industry warns it could drive up the cost to build.
So we'll see the detail, but that's something that we just need to be aware. When you add a policy like this, it might have a project may cause delay, cost increase, and maybe that's going to have an impact on how much project you can go.
The Prime Minister hasn't yet revealed the policy's regulations, but Mark Carney says they will be applied to the federal government's push to build affordable homes and major projects, with more to be announced on Thursday. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
The longest U.S. government shutdown in history could soon come to an end after 8 Democrats broke rank Sunday night to move forward a Senate deal to reopen the government. But as the CBC's Katie Nicholson reports, the chaos from the 41-day shutdown continues.
At American airports, tens of thousands of cancellations and delays continue amid air traffic staffing issues as federal employees go more than a month without pay. But an end is in sight.
Today, the Senate voted to start reopening the government.
After 8 senators brokered a deal with Republicans.
We applaud the 7 Senate Democrats and 1 independent senator who did the right thing. They decided to put principle over their personal politics.
The move? Deeply divisive among Democrats who had been holding out to extend health care credits that are due to expire. All they are guaranteed in the deal is a Senate vote on a health care bill before the second week of December.
It doesn't change the core problem here, which is we need to decisively address the Republican health care crisis.
The deal's path through both chambers is still just beginning. And so for now, the shutdown grinds on, prompting a Delta Airlines pilot to soothe rattled travelers.
I know we probably have quite a few nervous flyers today. It is perfectly understandable. I want to emphasize this aircraft does not move a single inch unless both my co-captain Michael and myself are absolutely certain it's safe to do so.
While the U.S. president Monday scolded air traffic controllers on social media, telling them they must get back to work now. Anyone who doesn't will be substantially docked, and that he would recommend a bonus of $10,000 for those who didn't take any time off. This as their association head defended their absenteeism and compounded stress working without pay for 41 days.
The added stress leads to fatigue. The fatigue has led to the erosion of safety and the increased risk every day that this shutdown drags on.
A shutdown that may soon end, but take weeks, possibly months, for those affected to shake off. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Washington.
At least 8 people have been killed in India's capital in a car explosion that also injured 19 others. It happened near one of Delhi's most recognizable historic monuments, one that attracts thousands of tourists every day. Salima Shivji has the details.
We don't know a lot yet about what exactly led to this explosion near Delhi's Red Fort, a historic landmark and tourist attraction. Investigators are on the scene, forensic experts as well, teams with India's National Security Guard and National Investigation Agency, all of them combing through charred auto parts to try to find some clues to piece together what exactly happened. What we do know is that the blast occurred right before 7 in the evening, a very busy time in a crowded area, very close to Old Delhi's market bazaars. According to Delhi's police commissioner, a slow-moving vehicle approached a red light, stopped, and then that vehicle exploded. The commissioner says there were passengers aboard the vehicle, and he does also say that several cars nearby, at least 6, exploded as a result of that initial explosion, as ambulances and fire trucks rushed to the scene to get to those injured. According to local media outlets, many of the casualties were dead before they even reached hospital. Several others are very seriously injured. Some eyewitnesses reported hearing the loudest explosion they had ever heard in their lives. One man, a local shopkeeper, said he was knocked down 3 times and he thought he was going to die as well. India's Home Affairs Minister Amit Shah visited the site of the explosion as well as the hospital where many of the injured are being treated. He says there will be a thorough investigation and no possibility is being ruled out at this time. He says all options will be investigated immediately, and once the results are known, they will be made public. But still, there are a lot of questions here tonight as the country is grappling with this explosion. Country very much on edge because of this. This is a country that has been scarred in the past by attacks and bombings in urban areas. There was a string of them in the mid-2000s, blamed on militant groups. So this is a country on edge already. Delhi and Mumbai, big cities, are on high alert, as well as several neighboring states to the capital and border areas as well. And security is being ramped up around religious sites in parts of the country as this investigation continues. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Dehradun, India.
Typhoon Feng Wong has weakened and is heading for Taiwan after causing destruction and death in the Philippines. People are coming back after the storm displaced about 1.5 million residents over the weekend. Officials say at least 8 people were killed. Entire provinces lost their power, and 1,000 homes were damaged after the typhoon made landfall Sunday. It follows Typhoon Kilmagi, which left 224 people in the Philippines dead last week.
This year's COP30 climate summit has kicked off in Brazil. Organizers are urging countries to commit to more ambitious climate action plans to advance the goals of the Paris Agreement. The CBC's Susan Ormiston has the latest from Belém.
The delegates here very aware that this is a very politically difficult time for climate change, with a climate denier in the White House, amongst other economic pressures and attention on wars. So at the official opening of COP30 this morning, we heard from the Brazilian president talking about misinformation about climate change.
Now it's the moment to impose a new defeat to the denialists. Without the Paris Agreement, the world would suffer with a catastrophic warming up of almost 5 degrees till the end of this century. So we're moving to the right direction, but at the wrong speed.
We also heard a lot about what is working, and that is renewable energy. Many countries seeing a surge in the use of renewables, and that's sort of one of the more positive messages coming out of COP30.
This is the growth story of the 21st century, the economic transformation of our age. Those opting out or taking baby steps face stagnation and higher prices, while other economies surge ahead.
Being in an Amazonian city does have a different effect than Dubai or Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt in the past few years. People are getting a sense of the transition for countries and areas that are trying to bring themselves up economically, that are underdeveloped in many ways. We saw that Belen was being challenged to have enough spaces for people to sleep. Hotel rooms couldn't fill everything. A lot of people have rented out their condos, and 2 cruise ships are in the river not too far from here, and people are actually staying on those cruise ships for the conference. This city is at the apex of the Amazon waterway system, not on the actual river, but some of its tributaries. And a boat traveled all the way for 25 days from Ecuador and the Andes to Belen, bringing a group of indigenous leaders. They want a greater voice in what happens in their territories, and they're going to come and have their impact here on COP30 as well. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Belen, Brazil.
A hidden archive has surfaced beneath the battlefield of Vimy Ridge. A 1917 assault by Canadian troops there is seen as both a turning point in the First World War and a key moment in forging Canada's identity. As Colin Butler reports, the chalk walls where soldiers once waited to fight are speaking again thanks to 21st century technology.
In the tunnels beneath Vimy Ridge, where Canadian soldiers once waited for battle, the last post echoes, a tribute to the soldiers who left their mark on these chalk walls.
It's like walking into a church alone, and you see these carvings on the wall that these soldiers had done, in some cases, right before they died.
These are the tunnels below Vimy Ridge, a haunting gallery of names and art carved by Canadian soldiers on the eve of battle.
There were subway tunnels through here, and they were all connected, so the supplies as well as the men are moving through this vast tunnel system.
At Vimy Ridge, Canada proved itself, a young nation finding its voice amid the thunder of war. While they waited, anxious soldiers passed the time carving and writing in the soft walls.
Now, this is very famous.
Now, more than a century later, new messages are being uncovered thanks to 21st century technology.
Kind of twist your
New
wrist.
handheld 3D scanners capture the carvings in color and detail,
So these guys, Beckett and Mason,
revealing more than 30 new names once lost to time.
That's just a really prime example.
Once scanned, the carvings are digitally realized, linked to the name and face of the soldier who carved them, offering a glimpse into their thoughts, often fixed on love and home.
It links the past with the present, and it gets that message across that we need to remember the people that actually served.
Their work is a race against time. The tunnels are unstable, and some have already collapsed. A Canadian was killed in 1998 while documenting the art.
The chalk that is down there, it's very, very fragile. So we have to get there now with a sense of urgency as much as we can, to record as much as we can.
A century later, these tunnels still speak, but they can't hold out forever. Teams are shoring up tunnels, planting trees to preserve the fragile chalk, fighting to ensure this history isn't swallowed by the earth. Colin Butler, CBC News, London, Ontario.
Strength in the basic materials sector helped Canada's main stock index rise by more than 400 points today, while U.S. markets also rose. Here's a look at where things closed as we head to commercial break.
This weather update is brought to you in part by Atlantic Lottery's iGames. Play hundreds of games on the Atlantic Lottery app or at alc.ca.
All right, I know it doesn't maybe look the nicest, but feels kind of good getting this rain. Feel like maybe recharging things a little bit at least.
Definitely, we need to. And it looks like the timing's good for some Remembrance Day ceremonies, right?
Yeah, that's right. Cape Breton, likely that's the most questionable right now in terms of the best chance of seeing some of that wet weather. And I think better chance than not, we've got at least some showers in the mix there. The mainland looking pretty good. We'll dive into that in just a second. First, have a look at our viewer picture of the day. We're going to zoom in on Sullivan's Pond in Dartmouth. And of course, we know how
isn't it beautiful?
Nicely they decorate things around Sullivan's Pond. And thanks to Sandy Johnson with this great shot taken on the weekend. And thank you, Sandy, for sharing this. We know lots of folks will be there for tomorrow. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. There are the periods of rain. Note the bulk of that wet weather clearing out to the north and east by the time we get to Tuesday morning. Hopefully, Cape Breton can stay dry. It does look like those showers starting to creep back in, though, towards the late morning time frame, as that line of rain is going to be just offshore. So, again, a couple of hours is going to make or break, and this is all coming from offshore, which makes it a bit tougher to track. Western areas certainly looking like the best chance of staying dry and even a few sunny breaks. Central areas, again, including the metro area, cloudy with a chance for a shower. And note that those temperatures are going to continue to drop as we move throughout the afternoon, and the chances for wet weather will increase across the mainland late day as well. And then we're into the mix with a few flurries overnight and in through Wednesday. We could be waking up with a little bit of snow on the grass by the time we get to Wednesday morning. So those temperatures, as we said, falling through Tuesday. There's Wednesday. Recovering back up into the 4 to 7 range with a few flurries in the mix again Thursday night into Friday and again on the weekend.
Lots on the go for sure. Okay, thanks, Ryan. Well, this past Saturday, November 8th, marked Indigenous Veterans Day, a day for Canadians to honor the sacrifice and courage of their invaluable military contributions.
Ceremonies took place across the country to remember over 12,000 First Nation, Métis, and Inuit veterans who fought for Canada.
Established in 1994, Indigenous Veterans Day began as a grassroots campaign in Winnipeg after Mohawk veterans were barred from placing a wreath at the National Remembrance Ceremony.
A time of remembrance for sure. That's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Take care.